What it do, my Spartan crew? Mr. L on the place of E, going kind of impromptu on Twitch today, right? The reason is that sometimes you get special guests to come by the classroom, and today we have an amazing special guest joining us all the way live, actually from here in California, straight from LA. I'm gonna bring in our guests right now, and I'm gonna bring the students to join us. But we have the one and only, Here we go. We got Seso from 100 Thieves, the graphic designer. Welcome, everybody. Here we are all the way live in full effect.
What's up, guys? What's up?
It's crazy doing an interview with a professional live on Twitch.
Okay.
Right? Come on. You got to give yourself a little pat on the back. You did what you did, and you're designed for 100 Thieves. That's pretty dope.
Thank you.
So let me bring the students in to hang out, join the conversation. We got Martin, Brenda, Easton. We are missing one student, but hopefully they make it in, and we'll make the star be the main highlight right now.
Are we getting a tardy, like a naughty, you were late kind of thing, or what's up?
It's different. It's different during this pandemic and social distancing and all that fun stuff. So
lucked out.
Yeah, we there's a little slide session, so it's okay. So welcome to our channel. If you guys don't know, like I said earlier, this is SesoHQ on the Twits, on the gram. Designer for 100 Thieves. Oh, we got another guest. Let's go. Here's my other student, Arlette. Welcome.
Is this the tardy one?
Yeah, this is the tardy one, right? Like, what? So, dude, okay, so give you guys a little background on how I discovered Seso, right? As an educator, you always got to be on top of your game, right? You always got to, see what's hot, what's next, who's doing something pretty awesome, right? So I was like, you know what? I got to step up my game, do a little After Effects work. And it's been a minute, right? See, I went to school for animation, and it's been a minute. So I started looking up these tutorials, and then I landed on yours. And I was like, okay, let me check this out. And crazily enough, I kind of picked off the vibe that we have like a similarity in the way like we approach things and we tackle things. I was like, all right, this is pretty dope. Let's roll with it. So I discovered you, and then I was like, what? You're the head, you're the designer for 100 Thieves. Say what? And I run an esports program at my high school. What? This is crazy. But a big fan of what you do. So here's question number one, if you're ready for it.
Yeah.
If you're ready. All right. So last I checked, 24 years old, right?
Yes.
24 years old. How'd you get to this point in your career that you are designing for 100 Thieves?
I guess like to make this super, super long and boring story short, I sort of started designing when I was around 16, so I'm probably like a sophomore in high school and such.
Okay.
And I was on a couple of sports teams, but I never actually went to games. I only went to practices. Like if I was in football, I was in track, but I only ever went to practices because I would go back home and sort of like just do this fun YouTube thing that was just like, that was what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And no one really knew about it either in school. I didn't really tell anybody. Like, yeah, I'm just not going to practice because I had to watch my sister was my excuse. And so over the course of like high school, it just kind of grew and grew and grew. Later on, went into college. I went to a SUNY school, meaning like a community college school.
Okay.
And it sort of just took from this idea where I was putting this time and effort. I was literally going to school from like 10 a.m. to, 7 o'clock, for my first semesters. And then my second semester came around, which meaning I was able to like get an associate's degree. But during that time, I basically doubled up on credits. So I was basically in school from 7 o'clock until 10 o'clock was my gym class that I had. So it was quite of a journey that way, but came from that. And then, doing this college thing, I was like, if I do these extra credits, maybe if I go to my mom and be like, hey, mom, if I can like take off for a year since I doubled up on credits, you think you can just let me try to like make this whole thing a reality? So, of course, I did double up on credits. It was the worst 6 months ever, but also the best. But I figured it out. I finished it. I went to my mom, was like, hey, mom, reason why I've been in school so much, I doubled up on credits. Is there any way you can like allow me to take this year off? I'm not going to be behind. That was her thing, was she didn't want me to be behind.
Okay.
And so I was just like, I won't be behind. I'll still be ahead when I go right back into it. spoiler, I didn't go back into college. However, great things happen. Well, great things happen for me just because I put myself to it in the sense. Like I was able to put 12 hours a day into something that I was only able to put like 2 hours a day into.
Okay.
And it came to something super cool. Financial was being okay. Mom was okay. I was taking care of her, paying some bills over there. So it was a thing where it just sort of like, it was a very obvious thing after I was able to put myself to it. And the whole 100 Thieves thing came around when I was around, let's say like 80,000 subscribers or whatever. And I actually applied to them. I saw it on Twitter and whatnot. And they actually came to me and was like, when I got on the interview process, they were like, yeah, we interviewed like 30 people and they all said like, you're their inspiration. And I was like,
what?
Oh, okay. So I see what's happening here.
Okay.
And that's not even a lie. She says it all the freaking time, which is adorable. But that was the whole thing. They were like, yeah, like we keep hearing your name. We saw that you applied. So who else should we get if everyone is saying your name? So I guess in a way, my personal brand really helped me in my journey and getting into like a full-time job.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been great ever since, to be honest.
Nice. That's quite the journey.
Yeah.
Community college, you get your foot in, and then just you keep hustling, and it's dope. It's dope, that mom was like, yeah, I got you. You do your thing.
Yeah, that was the coolest part because my mom could have easily said no, and kind of just this whole thing would have went down the way.
Oh no, for sure.
Anyway, but it could have been worse. Let's just say it could have been a lot harder. But she was super supportive, and I mean, I honestly owe it all to her, to be honest.
Yeah, see, that's dope because I totally relatable. I come from Hispanic origins, and my dad, did his 9 to 5, and he was always like, try it, come, follow my footsteps. I was like, no, I'm like, this art thing is really what I want, and he's like, you know what? He's like, go for it. I was like, say what?
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. My mom was like, she was a little hesitant at first, but she was like, you know what? She was seeing things happen.
Yeah.
Seeing the success, seeing my like work ethic, and she was just like, why get in the way, It's just kind of what it is.
That's dope. All right, guys, class students, do you guys have any questions you guys want to ask us, or I can just keep talking and you guys can just nod your heads like, yeah, this is dope.
No, ask up, guys. Come on.
I have a question.
All right, Brenda.
What inspired you to start designing?
Okay. It was complete accident, to be honest. I like to do like the whole little YouTube thing since I was a kid. And I also wanted like a really cool channel art, right? I really wanted my YouTube channel to look really cool for people, even if it was like 2 people. I was just like, I want it to look cool. So I had a friend who was a graphic designer, and I actually never even knew what the world of graphic design even was. I just knew that he was able to make this thing that I couldn't make. And sort of I kind of asked him for it. I was basically the bad client. I waited less than 24 hours and was like, yo, like, can I get the banner? It's been a little bit not understanding the time, not understanding the mental of it. And a couple days went by and I asked again. He was like, dude, I just couldn't get to it yet. And I was like, can you just tell me what it is, how to do it? That's literally how it started. I started by a complete random accident, a complete random idea. And fortunately, my friend was like cool enough to show me and like be like, hey, this is what Photoshop is. This is what a brush is. And I was just doing brush things and splattering paint around the canvas, throwing, names on it and calling it a banner design. And I sort of fell in love with the idea and just personally took it upon myself to Google some things and kind of learned it that way.
Okay. Nice. Great question, Brenda. Easton, Arleth, anything?
I think a lot of designers are going down, starting, especially within the age of media, being at our fingertips. We all kind of start within the notion of wanting to do something to show other people. And I've been surrounded by art since a really young age. My dad's a graphic designer. He got into it through snowboarding. So he didn't go down the traditional college path as well. But the reality, at least what it seems like right now for most designers, is the most viable way to break into the field, at least how we're seeing it, is to go down this college path and whatnot. Is there some advice you would have when it comes to expanding a portfolio and really showing how we can be different within the competitive landscape of design.
Gotcha. Honestly, super dope question, to be honest. What I would say to that, for me personally, the way I kind of consider it and think about it is college itself is going to help you understand the sort of fundamentals of the industry side of it and really help you understand how to get to point A to point B, but it won't actually get you to point A to point B without the experience. So while you're in college, you should definitely still be, or if you're considering college, or even if you're not considering college, you can still make it as a graphic designer, because the biggest thing for me and my point of view is the experience of talking to people, learning what clients are, the experience of talking to other people who are also designers, who are also probably not designers, who are looking in the field for things that they might need design stuff. So I just personally think like you would think college is the only way in the idea, but you can easily put in 3 to 4 hours a day just Googling some things around and getting yourself at a comfortable state where your work speaks for itself, and you can just simply apply it that way. But for me, college did help in the sense where I was able to learn more of color theory, learn the fundamentals, the facade, the philosophy of it, and it worked for me. But at the same time, I was getting not enough experience, and putting myself to the experience at 18, 19 years old through the 21 years old, I was able to really apply myself that way. One thing I would actually say, though, for sure, is portfolio building is really important, but also networking is number one, in my opinion. So if that's social media, where if it's like a Twitter or if it's like an Instagram social media kind of thing, I mean, I don't know how appropriate it is to say like, yeah, you should get on Twitter in school. But like, you have Twitter, you have Instagram, these things where you can post your art, whether or not if it gets a bunch of likes or if it does get traction. It's all about like the idea of someone else appreciating your work. And if you have enough people appreciating your work, you can apply that and have that be what fuels your life, right? So that, yeah, you do have your Behance, you have your Adobe portfolios. Your portfolio is really important, sure. But what's also really important is also make sure you get your work out there and it's seen. And you can even show your progression that way, and people can apply it and learn it and love it. So yeah, I mean, I would just say my most important thing is just get in front of something that you can build it, and it'll just build for you in that sense.
Sweet. It's always a hustle, isn't it? There's always a hustle.
Art is super competitive. It's obviously no joke at all.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's the people who do get in front are so geared and prestigious in their own right because they've been through the struggle of getting to point A to point B. So as soon as you get to point B, all the way throughout the rest of the alphabet, it's pretty easy after that because you kind of already get it. And it's up to you to figure out, of course, the rest of the steps, but they're not going to be as hard as getting out there first. And that's why I think it's the most important thing is to try to put yourself out there immediately.
Cool. So question. So putting ourselves out there first, right? You do a lot of great YouTube content, and that's for real. Especially with the design trends and what types and fonts not to use. How do you stay ahead of the game?
I'm honestly always looking. Yeah, I have like 4 monitors, right? I always have one on Behance. I always have one on my Twitter, where I can just kind of like look of all these other artists that I personally follow, can see things that are happening. You can almost at a certain time predict what's going to happen when you see things happen, and if that makes any sense. But if you kind of see these little things around starting to happen, you're like, oh, that's probably going to be a trend because I've seen this once over here from someone who's in California to someone who's in India over here, and you can kind of play that field and be like, ooh, this might be a pretty cool thing. You have that, then you also have, like, believe it or not, some of these sites like the Behance or even like a Pinterest, to be honest, they really house trends. Like they put things in front that people, hopefully will gear and love, and if they do, that will become the trend. So the way I just stay ahead is I pretty much always look. I'm always paying attention. I have a fortunate idea that where I have people who can join my stream and I can look at portfolios, so I can also gain interest that way or gain what's happening that way. That's kind of how I do it personally.
Yeah, if you guys are curious, he's actually name dropping his Real Design Hours on his Twitch channel. So it's actually pretty dope. I've actually sat through a couple of the comps and seen what they do, and I'm like, okay, never would have thought about using that tool, but okay. It's pretty cool. He also, if you guys didn't know, Easton Martin, Brendan Arleth, he does have a Discord where you can actually link up with other designers and share your work I've dropped a couple things on there, gotten some good positive feedback, got ripped a couple times, but that's part of the business. That is part of the business. And honestly, I don't know about you, Seso, but for me, when I get, when someone like tears my work apart and gives me feedback on why, that's my best, right? Like compliments are dope, but I'm not learning from a compliment. It's like, it's not pushing me. So I love the idea of, being able to jump on, like, link on his Discord, or like we just joined, I had them join the Adobe Discord. So
yeah, honestly,
cool.
Finding community as well is also a pretty cool thing. Like obviously there's mine, but there's also a bunch of other different forums, a bunch of other different servers and stuff like that you can join and just be a part of, and gain just friends and relations that way. So it doesn't always have to be an idea where you have to like, join to, you have to be super active about it, but you can just look at some other people's work there too. And that's just the play there.
Yeah. Martin, you got anything?
Well, yeah, you originally stole my question.
Darn.
That's okay. So I know myself, and I'm pretty sure everyone can kind of relate to this. We're always trying to stay fresh. We're always looking for inspiration. And I'm sure, in the competitive scene of like esports and graphics, what's kind of like the biggest challenge for you in, keeping it fresh, keeping it new, trying not to have your graphics stagnant?
No matter what, I think being in the foreground and like in the forefront of whether or not you're in the top esports teams, you're always going to be looked at and seen. So being stolen per se, or taking inspiration at a high value from another person's org or something like that, it's bound to happen. But it's also a bit of an idea where it's like, well, that's a good thing for me. It means that I'm doing something right, in my opinion. But nonetheless, I think esports realistically never sleeps. That's the struggle. Sometimes you'll get hit up at 12 o'clock at night. If they see you online, there's more than just Slack. When you're in esports, you have Discord, you got Twitter. If they see you tweet, it's an idea that you're still up, right? So, I mean, it doesn't really sleep in that sense. That's the hard part, I think, is the hours you put in. Because esports is so new, it's still so fresh, and it's still being developed. So if you can get in pretty early, you're pretty much set. And if you can get to a spot where even if, you see your, quote unquote tops and your quote unquote bottoms, if you get even like a 25% there, you're in a pretty good spot. Because I think in the next, 2 to 3 years, you'll see more esport teams pop up from just like the regular leagues just being bigger, and not just only like 22 teams. So yeah, I mean, I think the biggest struggle is just the hours, to be honest. But you'll get used to it, I think.
Would you say that like overcoming creative block is a serious issue at the moment, especially with the pandemic and the fatigue that a lot of designers go through? Personally, one of the things that I've been really interested in is making clothing, and I try to do it in the most true to myself way, because it's not for making a profit at the moment. It's for gaining experience, giving shirts to my friends, and showing that I'm passionate about something. And I think one of the hardest things for me, as well as some of the other students in this call, is really just being able to continue to generate new ideas and continue to grow as a designer in an age where you're constantly comparing yourself to other people due to the digital space, as well as the entire pandemic that's going on right now.
Yeah, well, for one, creative block is 100% real. It's definitely not something you go into alone. I personally, I just came across a really big block. It also comes in waves for me, and a lot of other people too. It might come in like every 2 weeks. It might come in every year or every half year. For me, it's kind of like this every 6 month thing where I just get into a serious sort of like, just like, I don't want to be doing this right now. That's kind of the times I go home. That's where I was previously last month. I was literally just in this really big sort of rut where I was just like, I'm just kind of like designing without the idea of being better or try to elevate something. For me, what helps the most, of course, is just changing my environment. I think changing your environment is super, especially in the pandemic. I mean, if you're in your room 24/7, right, you're designing the same exact spot, it could be, devastating mentally. Like, it's just the idea of staying still. But even like my sister, I told this to my sister, and she changes her room, like literally rotates her room just to perspective. And it helps her, which is pretty cool for her, but it doesn't help me. I gotta literally fly out to New York to feel a little bit better. But also like writing things down and just like giving yourself a plan or an idea is probably the best part as well. I think if you at night, or if you're just in like you just want to go outside and just kind of chill outside at a park or something like that, or a beach, hopefully if you guys are close, right? You can just kind of sit out there, fresh perspective. You're not really thinking about anything else besides an idea that's just running through your head. Write it down. When you get home, you'll feel more comfortable with the idea of how to get to that spot. That's for me is what's favorite to me. It's just like writing things down and be like, hey, because when you're super stressed, you're at the same spot where you were before. You're not going to be able to think differently. So if you're changing your location, you'll be able to think differently and kind of apply yourself in a different manner and hopefully refresh that drive and idea. That's kind of where I put it. So I would say creative block is super real. When you're looking at art, try to look at other mediums or different types of art. If you're a graphic designer, look at 3D modeling. You never know what it will inspire you until you see it. That's the kind of cool part about it. So if you're out there really floating around and really trying to look at a lot of different things, it'll help you think differently. That's the whole point, I think. It's just making sure you're thinking differently.
Nice. Sweet.
I have a question.
Right.
You said art is like very competitive. Did you ever feel like this wasn't working out or like giving up? And if so, what else did you consider doing?
Yeah, trust. There was plenty of moments where I'm just like, this is way too much work for what, in the sense, right? Because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're okay financially. I think is the play when you get older. You're not like struggling, but if you love it enough, that's where I came in. Where if you love it enough, it doesn't even quite literally matter in that sense, but also it does matter realistically. But there was points where I had to figure out and pivot throughout my career where I was just like, hey, I'm making like this amount of money on YouTube, but how do I make more? Or how do I put myself more? And that's where you just try to find different sources of income. With graphic design, you luckily can use like a YouTube to share your ideas. You can luckily use like a platform like a Sellfy or a digital product where you can sell digital products for another source of income. Then you have clients. Then you have your part-time works, and you just basically have these different sources of income. They have to realize when you look at design, you might see like, hey, like you might look at jobs around your area. You might be like, hey, this is $30,000 a year for a junior position. Can I live alone in an LA or something like that? Like probably not, right? Without like really struggling. So you have to apply yourself and be like, hey, like I can make this amount of money over here, this amount of money over here in different ways. And when you start building connections and you start building that traction, it's super simple after that because it's just sort of an idea. You can, predict what's going to happen and then elevate it that way. So yeah, when it comes down to it, for me, it was more like a financial thing. Because I've always heard in the back of my head when I was growing up, I remember saying to my second grade teacher, like, yeah, I want to be an artist when I grow up. Not a graphic designer. I said artist. I like to draw before. She was like, yeah, that's a great idea, but like, artists don't make too much money. I remember her saying they don't make too much money. That stuck with me. And I was like, why would this teacher tell me this? But she was just trying to be realistic in that point. But it's a lot different nowadays. There's so much that's digital. There's so many people that are like entrepreneurs in the sense, right? This is like the entrepreneur age where everyone wants to do something, which is super fortunate for everyone who wants to help someone do something, like us, like graphic designers, because that just means more clients, more ideas, financially okay. But when it comes to like the art comparison itself, obviously I would say not to compare yourselves. However, that's the nature of us. We'll always compare each other to each other. And it was difficult. I even today, like I'm quotably at the top of the esports teams, right? Or the top of the esports designers, but I still look at myself and like, I could be better in this sense, or I hate the fact that I can't do this, but it's honestly just hours at this point. If how do I say? I usually kind of just say like graphic design is you'll naturally and inevitably grow to be better if you just put the hours in. It's not a sense of even if you don't even notice it, you're going to get better just by looking, seeing, and trying. That's just the whole idea here. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're comparing someone to your other works, it's going to happen, but just know if you continue doing it, you'll be there and even possibly ahead, hopefully the next year or two. So that's where I would go.
Do you think that building a brand identity is important when you are focusing on personal projects, whether it be your personal portfolio, a personal brand, or something like that, creating a strong identity, as opposed to branching out with other mediums and trying to be like a jack of all trades, essentially?
If you're saying like your own person as your own brand identity, right? That's what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say super strong. I was in a situation where I am a very much jack of all trades kind of idea, where you also hear jack of all trades, master of none a lot, probably. But that idea honestly does not exist in the world of graphic design. If you're a jack of all trades, you're just a jack. You're someone that people feel like they can rely on, right? In one source. And that's really cool. And also at the same time, though, you can also have relationships with, a logo designer. If you're a graphic designer, and be like, hey, help me out here. And that's how you kind of build these relations where clients can go back and forth. Yep. So being a jack of all trades is not a bad idea. But there's also an idea that you should definitely have what is it called? Like a having a special trait about you or a specific thing that you do very, very well. For me, that was just esports design. I understood the world of esports design. And that's kind of like, that's my specialty. That's kind of like where I land. So obviously esports designers will look at that and be like, hey, he's probably been in here for so long. But let's say if you're like an artist of just like doing comic or storyboards for games or something like that, definitely have that be your main point of like, hey, I am a storyboard artist, but I also do logo design, this, that, or this, right? Because mostly people are going to definitely be looking for what they need, and they don't know what they want until they possibly see it or need it. So if you're that person who can apply and give more than just what they need, that's how you also just sort of just be better, I guess, in that sense. But yeah, I would say it's super strong. It's a super strong thing to have as a personal brand.
Nice. So let me bounce off of that, right? Because I know you've done round 1 of merch, and I know round 2 is right around the corner.
Yes.
So whenever you're having discussions with individuals and you say certain things, does that ever in the head go like, bing, well, that's a kind of a cool idea? Because like right now you were talking to the kids and you're like, looking, seeing, trying. LST, man, there we go. We just came up with something.
Yeah, you're not lying. So that's the thing. Especially, I know, how do you say your name? Apologize. Easton? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Easton, yeah.
You were talking about merch, right? And I thought that was, super, super dope. Like everyone loves a cool merch designer. If you have a really cool idea, it's super dope. But yeah, when you're saying like you come up with an idea like that, like, yeah, I get it. That's the whole point. If you can like, how do you say, illustrate your story or illustrate a fun motive behind something that you make that people can get behind very easily, it becomes more valuable immediately just in having a really cool design. So if you have a really cool idea that you can so for me, it was real designer hours. I was just a degen individual who would stay up super, super late. And I was just like, I'm going to stream at 11 o'clock and end it at 2 o'clock in the morning. Because that was just my clock. And I was like, real designer hours. And I came out with the merch concept being this midnight collection, saying that, hey, this is the real designer hours, meaning, hey, we're up all night. But also every hour is real designer hour is the next idea, because that's the truth. Like when you're a designer, your brain never really stops. Like you'll look outside, you'll be driving, and you'll be like, dude, that was so cool. That color scheme was so dope. That placement was so sick. Or like anything like that. You just become just super hyper aware of all these really cool things when you notice that they were touched by someone's hands and they were thought out by someone. So yeah, I mean, if you have a really cool idea that you can get behind and tell a story about, you can also sell that too.
Damn. That's totally epic. And I it's totally relatable because I'll drive to the classroom and I'm like, oh, that's kind of dope. Oh, why'd they do that? Oh, I know that font. Like everything's so built in now.
Font, yeah. When you get up there to when you see fonts enough, you'll be like, oh, dude, I know what that font 100%. It's the coolest part. It's the coolest part, I think.
Oh man. Any other questions you guys got? It's been fire so far.
I've kind of always wondered, what does a day in the life of, the lead graphic design of Hundred Thieves look like?
So let's say pre-COVID, because current COVID is just, So for me, it would be waking up at around 9 o'clock. Work technically starts at like 9:45. I wake up pretty late in that sense, though, because I stay up until like 2 o'clock in the morning. But let's just say I wake up at 9 o'clock. I'll take a shower. I'll look through my emails, making sure there's any sponsor stuff. I'll look through it and be like, hey, this is a pretty cool opportunity. Or mostly it's not, because it's just kind of random sometimes. Get on Twitter, reply to people, be active, let people know that you're awake and up, because I think that's really important to have people, like I said, be present and understand what time slots, because you might never notice, but like there's certain time slots for certain people that get more interaction just because that's just what the other person can relate to very easily. Yeah. So if you're up super late, you'll most likely have a really strong relation with other people who are up super late. But yeah, anyway, wake up. I would go to the compound, It's cool. So you can you play basketball, go to the arcade in the compound. So for me, I would probably just do my little basic work here and there. Then I'll probably either go out to go get boba with friends, or sometimes we have catering in the office. We'll just eat, vibe, chill, watch YouTube. We'll go on the couch in the lounge, just watch esports. Afterwards, we'll go back into designing for a little bit or doing work. Then we'll go back outside. We'll play some basketball. Sometimes Matt will come out and be like, yo, let's go play knockout. Like where you just basically get like 15 people playing knockout. Lasts for like an hour and a half. Then you're like, oh crap, we should probably go back to work. And then, we go back to work, 6 o'clock hits. Sometimes a late night game outside where you can either play knockout or just a regular game. Then I would pretty much just go home, play video games, and maybe stream. Hopefully that's the play there. When I stream, I'll get off. I'll sort of like go ahead and look through Behance. I just personally like to look through Behance and just see what's new and see what's happening. Write down some ideas. Because for me, I get super active when I'm like about to sleep because I hate the idea of wasting time. But like I will sleep, write down some ideas. I don't really use a notepad. I use my phone. Write them down. So when I wake up, they're fresh because I can't tell you how many times I disappoint myself when I don't write something down and I forget it in the morning because it hurts me just on a mental basis. It's kind of like this rinse repeat thing where fortunately, I live in a spot and a workplace that, celebrates breaks and celebrates being active and stuff like that. Obviously, it's not the case for everyone. It's not going to be the case for everyone. But, I think that's just kind of like what I do and I'm thankful for and I'm happy for. But if there's nothing else to do outside, I like to play video games pretty much all my other times.
Nice. I know we got to squad up for Valorant.
Sounds like a dream. Like absolutely.
I know it sounds pretty cool. And I know like from the compound, it's similar to like what they do at Google and at Apple, where it's like, work hard, but play just as hard as you work. So, us creatives, we kind of need that. I feel like if we're just there, like here the whole time, it's like, game over. That's dope. So I got a question, being that, you kind of just gave us a day in the life of pre-COVID in the compound, but when it comes down to what you got to crank out, and I know some of this, like Courage and some of them pre-film their stuff. So you kind of, in a sense, might have a kind of a head start in a sense. But like, how often is it like, oh, dude, I got to come in clutch?
Kind of a lot. You would think a lot of these creatives, like the Valkyries or the Courages, will be on top of their stuff. But they're also trying to figure out while they're blowing up, which is pretty hilarious. I'll get a random text from Valkyrie like, hey, I need help. Like, please, like, help me with this title or help me with this video. I'm like, wait, what? Like, shouldn't you? But she doesn't. And that's just kind of that's the reality of things. You would think that people have it all together, but they don't. Timing in that sense is just sort of like, if you can be the clutch guy, you'll always be the clutch guy. And that's the worst part because you got to like everyone then expects you to clutch up. But yeah, I mean, it does happen. You would think people are on top of their game all the time, but it's not the truth. That's also the fun of it. Like, I like being the guy that people go to, like, yo, Seso, like, Matt, like, I need to get this. Can you just help me with this really quick? I'm like, sure. Like, what? Like, I'm down. I'm also pretty much always in front of a computer, even if I'm not. Because even if I go outside, I do have a laptop that I bring with me all the time, right there. I literally people with me. So even if I don't have a computer, I do. So it's fun.
Okay. Yeah. I honestly, like, sometimes the clutch stuff is like the most challenging because we got to rise to the occasion. We got to push through those stress levels. So, it's relatable. I'm trying to get these kids to understand that sometimes we got to be clutch and sometimes the deadlines hit and we gotta be there.
if you can be there when someone's at their, quote unquote, like most anxious and most nervous, you'll be the person that they'll never stop talking about when you do a good job. That's the cool part. So if you can do it and like, even if it hurts mentally for a little bit, the reward is actually pretty cool. You'll get your word of mouth. It's like one of the biggest things. Because that was kind of how I started in that sense. Valkyrie and Courage didn't really know of me as the person that they can come to get help.
Okay.
Until I started talking to like a Matt or a T Martin or something like that. And those are the kind of people that they conversed with. And that's kind of how I got the word of mouth. Like, hey, like you should probably go to Seso because they'll figure it out for you. If you can be that guy for someone, they'll go out of your way without even knowing. Like, they'll help you out.
Yeah. Sweet. I know our time's running out because you got stuff to do. So you guys have any final like remarks or questions you guys want to, give our guest or throw out there?
Would you have any closing words for the aspiring designers of our generation, the youth coming into the scene?
Oh, dude, yeah. I always like to say this. I think it's one of the coolest things to notice and sometimes to in your head remember is be impressive beyond impressions is what I like to say. As cool as the Twitter likes or numbers or Behance views or whatever is impressive. What's really impressive is if you can communicate well, if you can, be present in the understanding of trends, right? If you can understand how to do your work very well, like if you can just be more than just the idea of like, hey, I need this amount of followers, I need this amount of much money. Like no matter what, if you're applying yourself in so many different directions, and like really trying to level up yourself, I mean, it's again bound to happen. If you want to be a designer, you can be a designer. You will find your niche. You will find it, even if it's in a community, if it's in a separate community across the world, you can easily find it. You just have to be patient enough to. There's literally a designer, a client, and money for everyone out there who are designers. Sometimes it's hard to realize until you're quote unquote there. But once you're there, you'll realize why it's so easy to perform and get it. It's because you were applying yourself throughout, networking and things like that, and not just only focusing on your art. The art's important, but everything else is almost more important. And in my opinion, sometimes you got to market yourself to market your art. You can't always allow your art to speak for itself, especially since this world does not understand that graphic design does take time. It's not 1, 2, 3. It's one of those things, man.
It's everywhere.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, you probably do have an idea actually, which is people think like it's just a free thing. Actually, it's not. It's not like a pencil to pen and then you figure it out immediately. Sometimes you don't get the idea until 5 days before this 2-week deadline you had. It's just how it works, and it's just people don't understand that sometimes. So if you can be patient with other people while there's hopefully people out there who are also trying to educate these people that this does take time. This is the idea, but especially in esports. If you guys get into it early, I promise you can find yourself a community. There's so many nice people. There's also terrible people out there. So don't try to don't get mentally messed up because some people are just jerks in that sense, right? Yeah. But if you're looking to get into esports or if you're just looking to get into design itself, but just like I said, don't beat yourself up, please. Like on whatever front, it'll happen if you want it to happen. That's kind of how I put it.
Sweet. So with that being said, thank you for blessing our stream, blessing our class time with all this amazing information. Before we let you go, drop how they can get a hold of you, how they can find you, drop the socials, the YouTube, all that information so that they can get in touch with the man.
If you guys are up super late, I mean, like not super late, but like, I don't know, I guess 9 o'clock is late to some people. That's like early prime time hours for me. But, if you're up at those times, I do stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SesoHQ. You can follow me on Twitter, or if you just want to, I sometimes tweet things that hopefully help you mentally. I tweet these reminders out that are just hopefully people can listen and understand. I'm not like some like guru kind of guy. The reminders that I tweet out are basically things that I wake up to and sometimes have to remind myself. And so I personally just like to tweet it out to the world to just, if someone else is feeling that same way, they can feel a little bit better about themselves. But also I just I'm around. If you guys do need help, I pretty much always look and see it. I see everything. My tweet deck is literally looking at every single column possible on Twitter at all at once. And I always have it up. So if you do need some help, I can help. But also, if you want to just learn some YouTube stuff or learn some design stuff on YouTube, I'm on YouTube as well, where I just kind of do some random motion design art in general. And hopefully I just bring a little bit of energy so it's not some boring monotone voice. That's kind of where I'm at. So if you guys like to, it's pretty much that's where I'm at.
Sweet. So again, thank you for joining us today. I know you got to head out and do your thing, but again, appreciative of this opportunity right here. And we'll be in touch, my dude. We'll be in touch.
Pleasure. It was fun. Really good question, by the way, guys. Dan, you caught me off guard.
Crazy, right?
I appreciate it.
All right. So thank you. Let me pull everybody out and do our thing. So everybody that joined us on the stream today, thank you guys for being a part of the stream today. Thank you for joining us. If you guys have any questions, you guys know how to get a hold of SesoHQ on the gram and on Twitter, same handle, SesoHQ. But Larios is about to head out, so I'm out of here, man. Hasta luego. Deuces. Bye. See you all.